Kickstart and the opportunities to get people 16 to 24-year-olds into work. So I'm joined by Nicola Burns-Thompson, who's the Executive Manager of the Chamber of Commerce, who I've just been chatting to over the last couple of minutes. And today we're delighted to have Dee Solanki, who's from the Department of Work and Pensions and is the Employer and Partnership Manager for Kensington and Chelsea, and knows everything about everything there is to know about Kickstart. We should also be joined shortly by Graham Hart, who's the Head of Economic Development for the Royal Borough of Kensington and Chelsea. And what we're going to do is just have Dee is basically going to run through Kickstart, what it is and what it means for us. And then after that, we will have basically open questions and answers. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Dee. So you're on mute, Dee.
Mute. Dee, yeah. No, can't hear you.
No, it should be up at the top right-hand side. It should be an option.
I don't know how to. Your spotlight, but I can't work out how to get you to not be muted.
Can you just?
How about now? Can you?
Yeah. Yes!
Hey. Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you very much for inviting me along today. In the way of introduction, my name is Dee Solanki, and I'm the Partnership Manager for Kensington Chelsea. And thank you very much again, Michael, for the introduction. Today's agenda is, again, Kickstart. It's really focusing on our young people, 16 to 24s, and the monies that have been allocated really do fall under two agendas. One is sums that may be given to an intermediary, if there is such an organisation who is supporting small, medium-sized businesses. The other funding will be that goes to an employer. Nicola very kindly has pulled together some slides that we could hopefully go over, but this opportunity here and now is just to give you an overview and just go through some key changes that were announced very, very early on today, if not late yesterday evening. So just to recap, on Kickstart, that was introduced on the 2nd of September. This is to help our young people, 16 to 24, and the referral route way will be through a job centre. The customers that we are primarily focusing on at the moment would be our 18 plus customers, because they are the ones who would be in receipt of universal credit or a welfare benefit at that age. The 16, 17-year-olds will be looking to be engaged through other platforms, but our main Kickstart program is aimed for our 18-year-old plus onwards who would be in receipt of universal credits. Now, you would have this program running for 6 months, paying the individual minimum living wage, national wage. In some cases, employers are upping that to a London living wage as well, but again, that's something that you may want to consider. But the 6 months is where you have, as an employer, an opportunity to develop that young person as well, help them towards their CV, and get them prepared in more of a detail. So there could be some customer services experiences they are picking up on. There may be some administrative roles that may be available, so they're really learning about administration, telephony processes, as simple as they may sound, but etiquette, knowing salutation, what kind of conversation to have. Those development avenues can be enhanced and developed within a working environment. The monies I had mentioned earlier would be at £1,500, £1,500, initially given to an employer. Now that monies would be for adjustments, new IT solutions may be required for that new candidate, some learning or development may be needed for them to be trained in that bespoke industry or sector. It also could be where in some different boroughs, that £1,500, a pot of it has been allocated to a consortium or some sort of intermediary to then support under human resources, HR issues. But that, again, is a conversation that is more outside of this kind of forum, but just giving you some ideas. If you do have small, medium-sized businesses who may not have those functions or support, maybe, welcome. When it comes to the other element of funding, that will be the wages. This is what's quite new. When the program was first launched, the conversation and the agreement was that the wages will be paid 3 months. The employer will receive that in week 1 of month 4. The next tranche of payment of wages would be for month 6, which would be paid in the first week of month 7. Now, that in itself is quite difficult for small, medium-sized businesses to manage, especially if they were to have to pay the wage for 25 hours minimum a week at the minimum national set for 3 months. So most recently that was looked at and reviewed. Now that payment will be monthly in arrears given to the employer. So that's a most recent up-to-date new change that's happening, has happened under Kickstart. Now, this program, as I said, started on the 2nd of September, is to last until December 2021. So to be fair, if we were to take a person on in December 2021, that program in essence won't really finish until the summer of 2022. So this is where, we would need to ensure that the department is supporting our employers and providers as well, because we may, as a department, want to work with service providers, educational institutions, to make sure that the person has a certain accredited qualification, for example, or have gone through a pre-employment type training if needed. Now, there is an obligation or a commitment that the employer takes on. I take that on board, but as a department, we will all be playing a very big part in this. As far as selection goes, the employer will be selecting the candidate. The way this process works, the employer will upload their offer through gov.uk. That goes into our universal credit build. Our universal credit operatives, work coaches, will have a simple button to press on, which will then show them every single job opportunity available for our residents, for our citizens. Now, this platform isn't geographically set. It is set nationally. So we may have opportunities that have been presented as an opening from London Borough of Westminster, for example, or Hammersmith and Fulham. So these can be neighbouring boroughs who are also offering their opportunities for our residents, our citizens to apply for. Internally now, we could definitely have sorry, that was my doorbell. Internally, we do have a process where we can develop a conversation very early in the stages of recruitment, where I can make sure within our job centres, for example, in North Kensington, where all of our RBKC customers come and claim benefits from, will be exposed or introduced to your opportunities. Within that framework, I could make sure that people have been delivered pre-employment training where necessary, any accredited qualifications where necessary. So when it does come to the point of advertisement and recruitment, we will have those people already screened and vetted and hopefully put through to you for you to then select. So just to recap, I've talked about when the program starts, when it's expected to last up until summer 2022 with a closing date of December 2021. Talked about the national wage, talked about it being paid in arrears on a monthly basis now rather than 3 monthly. The intermediary support that will be there would be around supporting the employer and our bridge, to be totally fair, like, you know, because there will be our chambers of commerce, for example, will be speaking with our DWP colleagues as well and making sure that if there's any updates or any bridging that needs to be done, we can do so. But what I wanted to do now, if it's okay, Michael, Nicola, I wanted to pause. And I don't know if, Nicola, you wanted to bring in that presentation and go through that, or maybe take some Q&A.
I'm happy to go to Q&A because you seem to have touched on most of the detail that I'd included in my my thing. I mean, because most of it is, you know, the actual details of how the process will work and stuff. We haven't actually had all those details yet. To know it, and Michael and I have started with an idea of what we should be getting from prospective employers, but we haven't had that confirmed by the DWP yet, have we?
Right. Michael, sorry.
Well, I was going to say two things. One is that the Chamber of Commerce is a registered intermediary. So if you want to take on any Kickstart employees, then route them through us. You can either email Nicola at kccclondon.org or Michael at kcclondon.org, and we will sort you out and proceed with the applications. And the second thing I was going to say is we're also partnering with Kensington Chelsea College. We're going to provide some skills training. So we're in the process of trying to finalise that at the moment. And it looks like we're going to offer a kind of 3-phase training programme for each employee, where there'll be an initial training when they start, another training session in the middle of the 6 months, and then a final one at the end. So it'll kind of help all kind of small employers basically comply with their kind of training and support for each individual. And the third thing I'd like to say is actually we've now actually got Graham Hart here, who is the head of economy and development for Kensington Chelsea. And Graham, would you like to say a couple of quick words before we start the Q&A? Because Graham will join us on for any questions and answers as well.
He's muted at the moment. Oh, here he is.
Are you there, Graham?
The camera's not on.
No.
Should go back to Dee.
Okay, we'll go back to Dee then. So if anybody has any questions, basically, I think you can hold your hand up and we'll hopefully be able to spot you and get you to ask a question. Or there's also the chat function so you should have a little screen thing at the bottom. If you click on that, you'll be able to type in a message and we can ask the questions through that.
Oh, Graham's Teams isn't working properly.
Right.
Can I put a hand up and ask a question? I don't know.
Yes, you fire away.
Oh, brilliant. Okay. I mean, I think first of all, it's Dick House and I'm from Utah. We're based in Fulham, but I'm members of the Kensington and Chelsea Chamber. I think it's a brilliant scheme. It's exactly what's needed. Years gone by, we've taken on people at that level. We're a small business, by the way, employing about 15 people, but we've taken on people at that level before who are literally school leavers and developed them, and they've been absolutely fantastic. It's a lovely opportunity, but at this time, money is a worry, and this takes that worry away. And we would love to put something back. So to help these people would be fantastic. So I've got background. 2 questions. I'm really sorry I came in slightly late, but how soon can we start the selection process? We've got a possible role, which will be sales basically, but nice sales. And we as a small business, people really get into being part of the company very, very quickly. Then it's not just doing the filing or anything like that.
No, absolutely.
Part of what we're doing, really, really important. How soon can we start doing the selection process? What's the timescale?
So you can start straight away, in the sense of putting that conversation ahead with our intermediaries.
Yep.
If you say, for example, you have less than 30 candidates that you're going to be taking on, then definitely have a conversation with the intermediary who will then support you through that motion. But we have started taking on job applications, opportunities. The first one I saw this morning was Tesco's at the moment. So, but can I also say, Dick, Nicola mentioned something earlier about the opportunities and the processes. Already there's a lag. Okay, so at the moment we have one employer on, but we have got another 145 going onto the system, hopefully tonight. And that's where the delay is. But definitely, Dick, what we can do is, if you have a job description and there's a certain candidate you're looking for, we could definitely be working with you on that to make sure that the right suitable candidates are selected.
Okay, and on that subject, I've been promising Nicola details, which will be coming through tomorrow, because the person who's responsible for writing that up has actually been on holiday until tomorrow. So that will come through, Nicola, if that's the right.
Excellent.
Absolutely.
So that was number one. Now, we would only be, we're small, we'd be taking on one person to start off with. So the second question is, if it all works out well and we decide in a couple of months' time we want a second, under the similar basis, maybe a slightly different job description or whatever it is, that's not a problem.
Not a problem whatsoever. So the program's open from the 2nd of September up until December 2021. Yeah. So anytime between that, you could have multiple interests.
Yeah.
And as one finishes a 6-month placement, then obviously that role comes up again and they go and find work. So you could end up with 3 placements by the end of the scheme, couldn't you?
Yeah. Well,
per role.
We're looking for people who want to stay. That would be our ideal.
Perfect.
I always think we put in anything up to 9 months to get someone up to speed when they really start to contribute. So that I see is one of the costs of employing people, is that those first sort of 6 to 9 months where actually you're working for them. So it's, from my point of view, I'm looking for someone who, if it works out right, is going to have a full-time job. So yeah, no, that sounds fantastic. The other thing I heard of, I didn't realise, the 1,500 quid you're talking about, is that per employee or per company?
Per employee.
Per employee. Okay. Fantastic. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for the comments earlier.
I say get your applications in, and we can process them for you. So we've had a very good response to the Kickstart so far, with more. I think we're about 60 or 70 potential candidates for it at the moment. So it's all looking quite promising. So get your applications in, then we can submit them to the DWP, and off we go. So I can see Graham Hart from Kensington Chelsea has overcome technical issues and is now with us. Graham, do you want to say hello?
Yes, hello everybody. Graham Hart, Head of Economic Development. Thank you for the Chamber for inviting me, that I could come along this afternoon. And obviously, as a Conservative authority with a Conservative policy, we're all up for this, aren't we? And it should provide some placements and some opportunities for young people at this difficult time. And I don't take for granted that businesses and employers might be struggling and finding it challenging at this time to do that. But we are keen to work with our local partners, including the Chamber of Commerce, the local college, other providers, possibly in the charitable and voluntary sector as well, to see if we can collaborate on getting the maximum number of places we possibly can. So I think we'll be encouraging and doing some more communication about Kickstart locally, and then talking to the partnership about the interest and response that's coming back. I think we haven't done much immediately on that front, but there's already 10 or so expressions of interest that have popped up out the blue. Also, as an employer, the council needs to look at what we can do as an employer, and colleagues in HR are looking at what we might be able to do across our services. We are currently trying to recruit for 12 apprenticeships that were already in train. There may become an issue in terms of the capacity of the organisation to support placements when there are quite a lot of services that are working remotely and people working from home and things like that. But we will be canvassing for our departments and services that might be able to host a placement over the coming period, and we will have to look very carefully around our commitments on London Living Wage to that, which, like a few other local authorities where we're pledged to do so, we would have to try and find some money to do a bit of topping up for those placements. So I think we will probably create some placements, but we wouldn't, for example, create, say, 30 off our own bat. We'd create a number, and then we'll work with others around this. So yes, thank you very much, and I'm interested in hearing about the level of interest.
Okay. That's great. Thank you,
We've
Graham.
got Sebastiano, who's been waiting very patiently with his hand up to ask a question. Sebastiano, can you unmute yourself, please? Perfect.
No, Sebastiano, I think I can't. Yeah, I think you're on mute still.
Can you unmute yourself, please? Oh no, it says it's not muted here.
No, we can't hear, I'm afraid, Sebastiano. Do you want to type in your question into the meeting chat, and we can come back to you?
Okay. Should we go to Michelle then?
Yeah, go to Michelle, and then Sebastiano, if you put your question in the group chat, we can come back to you because we can't hear you.
Hi, can you hear me? It's Michelle here.
Yes.
Great. Okay, I've got 3 questions. First one regarding applications. My understanding was that you had to apply by May 2021. That's when it officially closes, even though obviously the placements would go on until December or longer. I just want to just clarify that in terms of timelines. The other issue is my understanding is there's a 4 to 8 week processing time from the time you actually apply for the scheme to you actually having an intern or a Kickstarter on board. I wanted to clarify that. Also, bearing in mind that we have these confusing guidelines regarding working from home or not, problems at the office, etc. Do we need to have flexibility there, or do we just sort of say everyone at Kickstart, all these Kickstarters can come and work in the office? What's the guidance there?
Michelle, thank you very, very much for those 3 questions. So May 2021 end of was set originally because of the program finishing for December 1. But as I had mentioned earlier, you can actually take on a person in December of 2021, which will then lead you into the summer of 2022. This policy had actually was changed about a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks ago, where originally that was the set date. And bear with us, ladies and gentlemen, it is a very agile approach and things do change over here, and that's why I was mentioning at the introductory that you can apply in the month of December in 2021 for that individual to be in that placement up until summer of 2022. I believe that guidance should be updated on gov.uk by today, because I just had a meeting this morning with the Kickstart policy intent guys, and they were saying that there will be some new material uploaded onto the gov.uk under the intermediary and the Kickstart hyperlink as well. With regards to the timeline, sorry, forgive me. Can I ask you to repeat that question again, please?
Yes, my understanding was there's a 4 to 8 week timeline from when you actually apply to actually have the Kickstarter start at your company.
Yeah, I wasn't too sure. I thought I heard 4 to 6, but you're right, it's 4 to 8. So with regards to the timeline that we have as a department, from the 2nd of September, we have started taking in these new opportunities. By the 2nd of November, we have an aspiration to have people placed into roles across the whole district or even nationally. And there's a certain number of aspiration that we have. Based on that process, it is a 4-week program. From the start to the job of advertisement and recruitment. The 8 weeks has been put in as a buffer because we need to manage expectations. We have a small team at the moment who are managing the Kickstart in each of the districts. And in the month of November this year, we'll be recruiting more staff. So there will be a whole pool of new staff focusing on the labour market, which also is a part of Kickstart. So as a contingency, if we are unable to manage the expectations in 4 weeks, it can potentially lead up to 8 weeks if we don't have the resource in place. And finally, on the flexibility angle, each organisation would have had their business continuity plans, risk assessments may have been done. As a department, for example, we've got phased approach, so some people are coming back into work, and we've also got an easement, so we have 1 week on, 1 week off, so people come in and out of the office. It, Michelle, does really depend on the industry and the sector and the work that the person's been assigned. You could be delivering, like Dick does over here, as a sales representative online, but some sales engagement may be more better received face to face. Administration, some of it can be done at online, at home, logistical sort of stuff, computer type of work. So it does really depend on the industry and what support that person may need. Now, finally, on that element, there will be people who may not be able to manage throughout the day and or night without any support. That also goes into the way of work. So access to work, reasonable adjustments is also available through the DW. People who may have a disadvantage or a limitation or disability. I hope that helped, Michelle.
Does anyone else have any questions or hold a hand up?
Sebastiano, do you want to try again?
So Sebastian's actually got a chat there.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
we can hear you.
Okay, fantastic. So good afternoon, good evening, actually, to everyone. We have a micro enterprise, basically. So we don't have technically any employee part, me and my partner. So we were wondering if we can hire university students part-time for this scheme.
So the scheme is a minimum of 25 hours a week in employment.
Okay. Okay. So there is okay.
So potentially that may impinge on the students' remote learning, potentially.
Yeah, no, that's nearly it's a sort of part time because more than 24, while the full time would be 40, but it's a lot for a student. I mean.
Sorry, Sebastiano, I didn't hear you too well there.
Yeah. No, as I said, it's a full time would be, I think, between 36 and 40 hours per week, but 25 is already a big amount for a student anyway.
Yeah, but the person can be potentially doing a part-time studies as well, open learning studies, open university. So, hours of remote learning can be dictated by the individual. So, don't dismiss some courses people are doing, but 25 is the minimum requirement for Kickstart.
Okay. Thank you.
So so basically, we will pay them the minimum for this 25 hours a week, and I understand that there is a training in place. Do we have to provide training? Is mandatory, or is something we can choose to just provide our own internal training for them?
Sebastiano, I'm so apologetic, but I think I heard some learning and development training needs. Yeah. So if it is the question, would the training be delivered by you or a provider? It does depend on the job. If it is a job that requires an accredited qualification, then that will be probably an educational institution. If it is something that you could teach on the job, which is known as upskilling, without certain accreditation, that's absolutely fine as well. So it could be, work experience, learning on the job, like, how to file, how to put things in chronological order, and so forth. But if it's like, say, hygiene and cleaning. Oh, okay. So hopefully that should have answered that question, if that's okay. Yeah. Sorry, Sebastiano, the time was pretty bad.
Thank you, Sebastiano. So we have next question, Dee's from Wotan Games, and they're asking about if they have a candidate they're interested in hiring, they've already identified it. How is it possible to get them onto the scheme so they can go through the DWP?
So if you have if you have 30 or more people, then absolutely you could go on to gov.uk and apply yourselves independently. If you have less than 30 new people that you're looking to recruit, then we would say that you go through an intermediary service.
That's fine. So if you have a candidate you want to actually recruit, though, so you know somebody already, how do you get them onto the Kickstart scheme? Do they have to go through? Do they have to go through the DWP? They have to be claiming universal credit. And then...
Oh, I beg your pardon. Sorry. Yes, my apologies. I misunderstood the question. So yes, you're absolutely right, Michael. Yes. So in order for one to have benefit of Kickstart, the person applying has to be a universal credit customer, claiming job seekers allowance, working age benefits.
As there's a 5-week time lag for universal credit, do they just have to have registered for it, not necessarily have received it, but because they don't have any job prospects, they're still at risk?
Yes, so just to echo what Nicola had said, it is a 5-week period, so it's 4 weeks plus 1 for payments to go through the account. Nicola's absolutely right. From day 1 of universal credit, you can have that conversation with your work coach and say, look, I am job ready. I am ready for this, that, any other kind of job. Please go into Kickstart and tell me what you've got on your platform. And I would love to start applying for these jobs. And with all due respect, that's the icing on the cake. If we can get people into work before they get the universal credit, ideal.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Dee. So next
we've got another AG. Somebody who's listed as AG.
Yeah. AG, do you want to ask a question?
Hello. Hi. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hello. Yes.
We can hear you.
Yeah, sorry, I just had to unmute the button there. Just a couple of quick questions. Just following on from what was previously mentioned regarding students. It's my understanding that students are not eligible for universal credit therefore no students are eligible to be on the scheme. Could you confirm?
So I got the first bit of the question. I think you wanted to confirm if you can be a student and claim universal credit. Was that the question?
Yeah, it's my understanding that if you're on education, you cannot claim universal credit. So could you just clarify that?
Just to clarify, you can be in receipt of universal credit and in education as well. So we have young people who also have families, for example. They will be in receipt of a welfare benefit, although they are of working age, but they have non-dependents, for example. Dependents, for example. People with disabilities tend to receive welfare benefits as well of working age. And it does really depend on the course this person's doing as well. So as I mentioned earlier, your face-to-face learning might be, say, 20 hours or 15 hours, but the remote learning may demand 20 to 30 hours, which will then impinge on your availability for work. But each case will be seen individually, and each case will be discussed with the work coach and the customer to best see where they're suited. But in the main, you can say if you're in full-time education, no, you will not be able to apply for universal credit because you need to be available for work. But if you have complexities or commitments, you may be entitled to universal credit. I hope that helps.
Yeah, so that helps, absolutely. Could I just ask a second question as well?
Of course.
Yeah, basically, we're involved in it's going to be a new startup company. So as far as my understanding, it would be in a position to apply for funding directly for this scheme because it wouldn't have the sort of financial track record that to become someone who can bring in 30 on their own name. That's my understanding of the documentation on the website. So if you are going through a gateway provider, let's just say that you want to bring in a certain amount of placements, but over the course of the year or 2 years, you want to scale up so you can offer more than 30 at one time. So you have more than 30 placements concurrently. Is there anything in the legislation that does not allow you to do that? Is there a limit on 30 to have at one point? And are you able to have placements from different providers, i.e. if you're looking for people in different geographical locations, so maybe one from yourself and then maybe one from another part of London as well, who work on a remote basis. Do you have any other further information on that at the moment?
So, and again, forgive me because I think the reception's quite poor. What I did pick up from that is if you have a number less than 30 and a number more than 30. If you have less than 30 candidates, so one from this borough, one from another ward, one from the neighbouring borough, then we have intermediaries you could find on gov.uk who will be able to then support you as your conduit for the person who will act on your behalf. And as you rightly said, as your profile enhances, and then you as independent employer may have more than 30, then you can go on to gov.uk yourself and you can put in that application as an employer. I'm hoping that answers that question. Forgive me, the reception was a bit bad. I'm hoping I understood the question as well.
Okay. Yeah, pretty much. Just, I think the question was if we are starting off by going through providers, if we then end up in a situation where through numerous providers we've ended up with more than 30, is that okay? Or is there some sort of government limit where because we've gone through a provider or providers, the limit is 29 for us?
No. There's no upper limit as such, because obviously we want to get as many people into employment as we possibly can. So 1.7 million nationally is sitting at the moment to be placed. So no, there is no cap or limit or restriction.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Sorry, I couldn't hear you that well.
Thank you, Dee. So there's another question from Mark about do intermediaries charge for the service or are they reimbursed by the government? And so the answer to that is the intermediary gets £300 for each job that is filled and it's paid directly by the government. For each job placement that's filled, the employer will also get £1,500 from the government to support kind of the setup and taking on and training of each employee. said we as a Chamber of Commerce are putting together a package with Kensington Chelsea College, who will provide training for each candidate. And we're also going to offer an employment package as well. We can advise you on employment contracts and what you actually need to do to take on a payroll if you haven't got any staff at the moment. So we can guide you through that process, but there will be a cost for that that will come out of the £1,500 grants that goes to each employer. Does anybody have any more questions? Anybody want to put your hand up? Have you got any? So I've got one very, very boring question. Sorry about this, Dee. So you mentioned in your introductory talk that the government was going to pay the employer. Is that still going to be routed through the intermediary, or is that going to be done directly now?
No. That's still, forgive me. Yes, I should have made that clearer. So it will still be going through the intermediary because some businesses may or not have established those accounts or, setups for payroll and so as well. So yes, that will be through yourself, and then that is paid out.
Lovely. So then we've got a question as Mr. Plus S or Plus 5 has got a hand up, whoever that might be. Is Plus 5 there?
Not sure if that's me or not.
Oh, Michelle's got her hand up and AG's got their hand up again.
Yeah. Oh, maybe, sorry, that's people. I was looking at the wrong thing. Right, Michelle, off you go.
Yeah, just a question, because we're just trying to iron out cash flow for Q4. The £1,500, my understanding was that it's paid within 7 days once you have made an offer to the Kickstarter and they are on the RTI. So as soon as it's registered on the RTI with HMRC, that you pay the £1,500 to the intermediary within 7 days. Is that correct? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. It's okay.
Right. Thank you, Michelle. So other people have got their hands up. I don't know who has got their hand up.
AG's got their hands up again.
AG.
Sorry, can you hear me again?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, perfect. Just following on again from the previous question, with regards to PAYE, if it's a new company that's not familiar with those services, are there any recommendations you can make in terms of maybe a software that we could use to, what would be the easiest way for a new company to get into the PAYE structure to pay these employees?
Michael.
Well, so if you can get in touch with me, Michael, at kcclondon.org, we'll be able to sort that out for you as part of the package we offer to employers. But basically, you can use some software. There's accounting software you can use, like Xero and QuickBooks and Free Agent, which is all online software. They'll all have payroll packages in there to run a payroll through that. If you're not familiar with online accounting programs, you could always use a payroll agent. So you can employ an accountant to actually run a payroll once a week or once a month for you as well. So we as the Chamber will be kind of helping you through that as part of a kind of employment package.
Okay. Could I just ask a follow-up question as well?
Yeah, sure.
I've spoken to, I think, one of the other boroughs, and they've said that they are working in pan-London partnership, whereby they'll be able to liaise with other boroughs and have placements from people from other boroughs other than themselves. Is that something you are also involved with, or are you exclusively Kensington and Chelsea at the moment?
So we are basically pan-London. So we're obviously Kensington and Chelsea is our primary focus. But we've been getting inquiries from basically all over London, and we are working with the London Locals Chambers. So we're all kind of grouped together and coordinating our offering for the Kickstart and helping people.
Okay, thank you. I'll send you an email regarding the PAYE question again. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Brilliant.
So there's another question from MO.
It's Michelle again.
Michelle again.
just want to thank you for coming along, because this whole COVID situation has been very frustrating and quite stressful. And I have to say that all these grants and things are pretty inaccessible. And it does seem, touch wood, that this is one of those schemes that perhaps is very helpful and accessible to all businesses, not just large businesses or businesses who've got the 50-50 rule, toned or whatever. So this seems to be quite universally democratic. So thank you for being involved in the program and for coming along.
Oh, that's fantastic feedback. And if you don't mind, Michelle and Michael, please, by all means, share my email account as well. We could use use me as your point of contact if you so wish. Whichever works best for you guys.
I'll email all the participants tomorrow with some follow-up about what we can offer and some contact details for everybody.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Thank you for your comments, Michelle. So kind of the youth employment is quite important because they're kind of tomorrow's generation of future employers and leaders. So getting them into kind of decent jobs while they're young and training is all very important. And I'm very pleased that the Chamber of Commerce is involved in the process. It's a great opportunity to try and make a difference.
It's a really lovely, positive thing right now as well, to be phoning people up, talking about giving job placements feels really positive right now. It's nice.
So the Chamber of Commerce has been going for kind of over 50 years, basically supporting businesses of kind of bigger businesses like kind of Harrods and Peter Jones, and small businesses, micro businesses who've got kind of very tiny turnover. We're here for you all. We kind of provide networking opportunities and kind of help you to grow and promote your business. As I said, kind of coronavirus has not done the Chamber of Commerce terribly well because there's a lot of businesses in trouble, changing, moving, closing. It's a big time of change. So we're here for you. We've been running online events the last 5 or 6 months. We've had a couple of picnics in Kensington Park this summer, which was great to go to, and we're still going to have some more events coming forward. So we need your support. The more businesses in Kensington Chelsea we can get to work together and do better business, it's going to help us all. If you want to join the Chamber of Commerce, you can just do that online, kcclondon.org, and just sign up, come along and join the network.
We'd love to see you.
Is it Dee, Graham, do you want to say any kind of closing words for the event?
Well, thank you once again, ladies and gentlemen, for having us. And this is the beginning of a fantastic, fruitful relationship, I'm hoping. And I'm sure if we all do work together, we'll definitely get our citizens into some sustainable, meaningful work as well. So thank you for being a part of this. Just wanted to share that.
Right. Well, thank you for your support, Dee.
And just to say, obviously, as this progresses, the local partners, Chamber, Council, College, and so on, we'll be talking to each other as we go along. And so, also, if you have any further questions that come to mind, then get in touch with the Chamber, and I'm sure it'll be picked up. And if it's something the wider partnership can help with, then we'll do so. But yes, it's nice to have something positive to engage on and talk about at this time.
Right.
Thank you.
So thank you, Graham. And if anybody has any questions, either contact me, Michael at kcclondon.org, or Nicola at kcclondon.org. We'll get back to you and answer any queries you may have. I think that will conclude tonight's session. So thank you very much for everybody for attending. Good luck, and hope the Kickstart works.
Yeah.
Oh yes, we'll make it work.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
So, thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
All right. Are you going to stop recording, Nicola?